Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. The cocktail for this episode is called the Undertaker. I'm going to start with our shaker with ice. To that, vanilla vodka, 3 ounces. Next, Kahlua, 1 ounce of Kahlua. Next, creme de cocoa or creme de cacao, 1 ounce. And we shake. Next, take our chilled martini glass and we strain our cocktail. Next, chilled espresso. One ounce. One ounce chilled espresso. And we stir. And there you have it, boys and girls. The Undertaker cocktail. Not bad. Chocolate vanilla. Thanks for watching. See ya. Bye.
Even though Greg calls me Dr. Karen once in a while, I'm sure we've mentioned, more than once, that I'm not a medical doctor. But after watching this week's movie on the Scary Spirits podcast, The Comedy of Terrors, I'm feeling pretty good about my doctoring abilities. After all, it doesn't seem like too much to ask that your doctor be able to tell if you've died or not, don't you think? Perhaps it would be in your best interest to tell your loved ones, in the event of your demise, to get a second opinion. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hey, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. The podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm hanging in there. How are you, Greg?
Not great, Karen. Not great.
The plague.
The plague has reared its ugly head once again. It will not go away, Karen.
It loves you.
Well, we were just talking last night, my wife and I, about getting rid of things that don't love you back.
And you're still there? That's awesome. Well, not that you don't love her. I guess I should have said it the other way. And she's still there?
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is if the feeling is not mutual,
It
cut ties
goes.
with that shit. So the plague, you can just go away.
Yes. I'm sure you
I'm
have
done
no
with
love
you.
for the plague.
It was nice while it lasted.
It's
And
not you, it's me.
No, it's not me. It's you.
It's you, yes. There you go. Good day, plague.
I said good day.
We'll see how that works.
All right, Karen, I believe this week was my choice. Was it? Was it not?
It was.
And let me apologize now.
Well, it's definitely a change of pace.
It is a change of pace. I've had it on my watch list since we started almost, which is crazy.
It has a lot of famous people in it, that's for sure.
I know, right? How could it be bad?
We're about to find out.
Yes, Karen, the film I have chosen is The Comedy of Terrors from 1963, starring Vincent Price, Peter Lorre, Boris Karloff, Basil Rathbone. Who else is in there, Karen?
Oh, those are the main ones.
Joyce, Jameson, and Rhubarb.
Yes, that was my favorite part.
Would you like to know why I chose this film, Karen?
I
Why
would,
I've waited so long to this very moment to release it upon you?
of course, I would love to know that. Please do tell.
Karen, it was released January 22nd, 1964. Even though it's filmed in 63, so I guess that's why they call it 63. Well, it looks like its initial release date was in Detroit, December, like Christmas Day in Detroit. But then nationwide, it was released January 22nd, 1964, which was Sunday. If you're listening to this on the day this goes live, just last Sunday. So celebrating the anniversary, Karen.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Another great correlation.
Is that right, Karen? 56 or 57? 58.
No, you're going, yeah.
58.
58. Yeah.
It just reached level 58, Karen.
Poor soul.
I do have a cocktail as well, Karen, in case you're wondering.
I was just going to ask you that, but I'm a little annoyed with your cocktail, but proceed. Tell us what it is.
Karen, the cocktail I have chosen is called the Undertaker.
Well, that's appropriate.
I thought so.
That's a good one.
Yeah, reading just, the synopsis or whatever. I thought it'd be a good one.
What's in said?
I tried to figure out what Vincent Price was drinking the whole time, but I couldn't.
No,
at one point they said wine, but
that wasn't wine.
That was breakfast.
Yes, it was an unmarked clear bottle, so it could have been moonshine, I guess.
Well, later on they had a bottle and it had a label on it, but we never saw it, and it looked like whiskey, and when it was like an amber colored liquor, whatever.
Oh, I saw a clear one. He was non-discriminate. Yes.
So the Undertaker. So we're going to need 3 ounces of vanilla vodka, 1 ounce Kahlua, 1 ounce creme de cacao, and 1 ounce chilled espresso. We're going to fill a martini shaker, Karen, and add the first 3 ingredients. So the vanilla vodka, the Kahlua, and the creme de cacao. Then we're going to shake well. We're going to strain that into a chilled martini glass and then add the 1 ounce of chilled espresso and stir well. And enjoy, Karen. It says it tastes like a chocolate and vanilla espresso served cold. It's sweet and easy to love, and it will keep you awake.
Again, I want to just say, just like me, to be clear, the reason that I am disparaging this drink is only because I do not like the taste of coffee. So if you do like the taste of coffee, you will probably really like this drink. It's a good mix of things, vanilla, chocolate, coffee, but I just can't get to like coffee. So
I don't drink coffee myself, and I don't particularly like it. I've tried it, but this is good.
Okay.
I enjoy this.
You want to give everyone a chance to make their own?
Yes. Everyone, run out to your local Starbucks, get your chilled espresso.
We'll wait.
Make your own Undertaker.
We'll be here when you get back.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us?
Yes, I do, Greg.
Please tell me a story.
Waldo Trumbull is an amoral undertaker in 19th century New England who takes to murdering people to have enough cash to support his drinking habit. Desperate for money after a widow stiffs him for a burial, Trumbull and his assistant Gillie decide to kill the wealthy Mr. Black, their landlord, to whom they're indebted. But murdering Black proves to be quite the challenge, as he seems to keep recovering from death every time they do him in.
Mostly accurate.
Yeah. Not terrible. Not great, though.
All right, Karen, are you ready to get into it?
Where did you watch it?
I watched it on the Internet Archive, Karen.
That's where I saw it, too.
Yeah.
Is it archive.org? I can't remember.
Is.
Okay.
Apparently, it's a nonprofit 501(c) organization that anyone can upload anything to it. I found like Microsoft SQL Server 2000. You could download it from there, and it's for educational and research purposes.
You can donate too.
Yes,
I did see that, but that's where I found it. On Amazon Prime, you have to have a certain subscription. It is on there, but you need, I can't remember which one you need, but you need one of them. But it's not on YouTube unless you pay for it. It's everywhere it was, you had to pay for it except archive.org.
And it was fine.
Yeah, I didn't have any issue with the quality of the film. Well, the cinematography anyway.
The condition of the celluloid.
Yes.
All right. You ready to get into it?
Yep.
The Comedy of Terrors, 1963. Film opens and there's a cemetery with lots of Froggy's fog, Karen.
Yep.
Apparently we're having a funeral or a graveside service. The mourners all leave and Waldo and Felix. That's what I call them.
Well, before that happens, all of the mourners start to throw dirt on the top of the coffin.
Yes, they do.
Do you know what that means or why you do that?
No, I don't.
It's not going to surprise you, but I was just curious because, it happens a lot. And I thought it had something to do with religion, but it doesn't really. Before leaving the cemetery, the deceased loved ones may toss a handful of dirt or soil on the coffin. Put simply, this is to symbolize that the deceased has returned to where he came from. Man comes from the earth, and so he must return to the earth. Usually, a spouse or a close family member will be the first to throw dirt on the coffin, followed by others who are close to him. It's a great way of showing solidarity during times of mourning.
I thought for a second it might have been, I said good day.
Well, and it does say if you want to throw some religious significance, ashes to ashes and dust to dust is kind of, you're just saying to the earth you go. I just never knew, so I was interested to find out. But yes, now we're with, you call them Felix and Waldo, is that what you said?
Waldo and Felix.
Okay. Well, I call him Mr. Trumbull because 2 houses down from me in my neighborhood were the Trumbulls. So she used to cut my hair.
So once the mourners leave, Waldo and Felix dump the body from the coffin into the grave and bury it. Apparently, Karen, they intend to reuse the coffin.
Yes, they do. Thrifty.
And we learn immediately what kind of film this is going to be, right?
By the music.
By the music and the sped up burying and very slapsticky, right?
Yes, almost like Boots Randolph. You remember Yakety Sax?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what the music is like as they're burying the body. So yes,
it is. That's good, Karen. Boots Randolph. Yakety Sax.
We used to play that a lot when we were little.
I think it was my dad. My dad had that album.
That's pulling one out of the.
That is.
I'm sure nobody knows what that is, but we used to listen to it all the time and spin around in circles until we laid on the ground and the whole house spun. That was our entertainment. That's how smart we were as children. And you wonder what's wrong with me. And here we are.
Then we have credits, Karen.
Yes, where you notice there are a lot of big stars in this movie.
And I knew this beforehand, but we also learned that the screenplay was written by Richard Matheson, Karen. That's 2 Richard Matheson screenplays in a row.
Well, he has a trope then.
What's his trope?
We'll get to it.
Okay.
You don't want to surprise everyone right up front.
Okay. Oh, I think I know what it is now.
I'm sure you do.
I'm writing it down and we will see. We will reveal later if I was correct.
Okay. Excellent. The suspense is going to kill everyone.
So then the film starts, and Waldo and Amaryllis, his wife, are arguing over breakfast as he's drinking wine.
Yeah, they don't get along.
Yeah, not at all. And Felix is downstairs working on a coffin.
Poorly.
And we also meet Amos, who is Amaryllis's father, who apparently owned the funeral home previously. And so Waldo married Amaryllis, and now he's basically running the business into the ground.
Yes. And this is the first time that Waldo asks if he should give her father some medicine. And when he turns it around, it's marked poison.
Yes. And apparently the business was successful when Amos ran it, but he spent all of his money on curiosities because there's taxidermy and all kinds of shit everywhere, right?
He could be on Hoarders Buried Alive.
So
he
Waldo
just likes to buy crap.
So Waldo puts down his wine and eggs and toast and decides he's going to go out and have a drink. So he leaves, and as he's leaving, he goes down through the cellar where the funeral business is. It's where they do the embalming or whatever, if they did that, or prepare the bodies.
We should say his wife goes on and on about how she could have been an opera singer if she hadn't married him. And we do see the cat.
Yes.
A couple of times. He sits at the table while they're eating breakfast. He sits on a chair. So
Cleopatra.
Yes, which is interesting because Cleopatra is the name of the cat. But did you know that most orange cats are male?
I did not know that, Karen.
Hence, when we see the credits at the end, Rhubarb, right?
Rhubarb is his cat's names, yes.
The ratio, Greg, is actually about 80% male to 20% female.
They call it a Felix cat or something.
I don't know.
That's a thing.
It's an orange tabby, and 80% of orange tabbies are male. It's genetics. So the X chromosome is responsible for the orange coloring, and females possess 2 X's and males possess an XY, just like us. So hence a female orange tabby cat requires the sire and the dam to pass on the orange genes. So I'm guessing it's recessive because they need 2 copies, but the male only needs 1 gene from the mother to be orange. And orange cats are kind of known to be real pretty, but not so smart. It's actually scientifically studied that they're not the sharpest tool in the shed, but they're very sweet and loving. So
thank you, Dr. Karen.
You're very welcome. Because I know that was just, you were just dying to know that.
When on Waldo's way out to get drinks, he breaks the casket that Felix is working on.
It was a terrible casket, but he did it on purpose. He didn't just run into it. He smashed it up. Yeah. So he was being a dick, basically.
Well, Felix, he
was trying to be helpful.
Right. He just didn't like burying bodies in the ground. It didn't have to be a nice casket, but at least something to put the bodies in, right? So they could keep reusing their nice casket is what he's doing.
Yes. Felix doesn't like how Waldo is treating his wife. You can see that throughout the movie.
Yes. As Waldo is leaving, he runs into Mr. Black, the landlord. And apparently he is a year behind on his rent, Karen. He has 24 hours to come up with the money or else...
Into the street they go.
Yes, he will evict them. Begin eviction proceedings. So we got back to the kitchen, Karen, and Amaryllis is singing.
Not very well, but she is.
I thought it was pretty good at the beginning.
Actually, at the beginning, it wasn't bad. You're correct. I was like, oh, she's pretty good.
But eventually she starts hitting notes she shouldn't.
She was pitchy.
She
was a little pitchy at the end. And then there's the recurring, she breaks all the drinking glasses or corks pop off bottles or whatever. She's hitting some wrong notes.
Yeah, and Waldo enters and his hat blows off.
I guess he's
Yes.
coming back from drinking, and his top hat blows off.
From her singing, yes.
But Felix seems to enjoy it.
He's smitten.
And once again, Waldo begins to poison Amos, but Amaryllis stops him. I think he actually pours it in his drink at this point.
Yes, he does, but she takes the drink
away.
Yeah.
It's a recurring theme. And every time it happens, Amos is mad because he's not getting his medicine.
He wants his medicine.
Don't you care about your old father? I need my medicine.
Which we should say, didn't you think that makeup was horrible?
It was pretty bad.
To make him, I don't know how old Boris Karloff was at this point, but they put makeup on him to make him look like an old man, and it was ridiculous. He was almost blue. They were trying to make him so pale and old, and
didn't we like to celebrate his 200th birthday or something? Right? He was 76.
Okay, they're trying to maybe make him older than that, but he didn't have to be much older than that.
He died when he was 81, so.
But his daughter was in her 30s, so 76 is plenty old enough, but they made him look ridiculous. But I think it was just everything's to the extreme in this. So I think that was part of the gig. I think this might have been a take a paycheck for Mr. Karloff.
So Waldo and Felix decide to raise money to pay their debt by killing wealthy townsfolk, right, Karen, basically, and then collecting the money for their funerals.
Well, that's Waldo's plan. Felix isn't so into it, but it's pretty funny because Waldo and Felix are talking, and Felix says, I don't really want to do this. And Waldo says, you have to. And Felix says, well, what if I go to the authorities? And Waldo says, well, who are they going to believe? An upstanding citizen like myself or a confessed bank robber like you? And Felix says, he never confessed. They just proved it. I thought that was kind of funny. So basically, Waldo is kind of blackmailing Felix into doing this. Yeah. He is resistant the whole time.
But Felix does have certain skills.
Yes, he does.
He can pick locks, apparently.
He's a criminal. And it turns out, we find out later, if you listen, that he did escape from prison.
Yes.
So he can't really do much if Mr. Trumbull, Waldo, is going to turn him in.
So the first house...
Well, they agree to meet at midnight.
Yeah, and they're going to break into the house of Mr. Phipps, a wealthy shipping merchant.
Who Waldo met at a bar.
Yeah. So they go there, and Felix picks the lock, and they go in, and they make a ton of noise as they go in. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah, a ton of noise.
It's supposed to be funny.
And they keep telling each other, shh, be quiet, shh, be quiet.
Waldo enters a bedroom, and it's Mrs. Phipps' bedroom, Karen, and she is sleeping.
Yes, and he is very taken with her.
Yes. She's a busty redhead, isn't she?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Boobalicious. And she's having a nice dream, apparently. And then he leaves the room and he's walking very gingerly, which they've made so much noise going in that house. Why they're even caring about noise at this point is ridiculous. They've knocked over huge things. Nobody's woken up at this point. It was kind of silly and not in a good way.
So he enters the bedroom of Mr. Phipps and he grabs a pillow and suffocates him. Then apparently they park their funeral carriage down the road and wait till morning.
Just at the end of the driveway.
Well, it's a long driveway, but yeah, it's down the road. It's 19th century New England, right? It's a large house.
Yes, it is.
Waldo's laying in the back of the carriage getting drunk. Then they hear a scream, Karen, a woman scream, and they make their way to the home. They meet the maid running out. She's going to go to get the doctor or something, and Waldo says he's here to help, and he walks in and pronounces Mr. Phipps dead and offers to bury him. I wrote he uses a lot of big words that Mrs. Phipps does not understand.
Yes, there's quite the age difference between Mr. and Mrs. Phipps. She's very young and he's not so much. So she's crying and Waldo is spending a lot of time comforting her. But yeah, she's made out to be not very intelligent. I don't think Mr. Phipps married her for her brains.
I don't think she married Mr. Phipps for his looks.
Or his brains. Agreed.
Next, we're at the funeral, and Mrs. Phipps is missing, Karen.
Yep, there's one empty chair at the front.
Waldo eventually decides to go find out where she could be, what's keeping her.
He goes full speed in his carriage to find out what the hell's going on.
He arrives at the house, and the maid tells Waldo that Mrs. Phipps has taken everything and left town.
Didn't even pay her wages.
Nope.
Smart girl.
And she let all the staff go. Everything is gone from the house, every furnishing, every photo, every picture.
She took it all.
She left town and plans to live in Europe. So Waldo does not get paid.
He's very upset and says there's no morality left in the world.
Right.
Kind of funny, too.
Kind of.
Well, ironic, I guess.
Next, we cut to dinner. And again, Waldo and Amaryllis are arguing. And again, Waldo tries to poison Amos.
Hasn't it been 24 hours yet? Wouldn't you think that...
It seemed like dinner. I kind of looked at their plates. I was wondering the same. Is this breakfast again? Or are they... I think it's dinner.
It looked like dinner. I agree. So...
He was having, I think, whiskey this time.
Well, as you do with dinner. But during the whole meal, the married couple is fighting, and the old man, her father, is just spouting off burial trivia.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
He's not listening to anything they're saying. He's just spouting off trivia.
About the Egyptians.
Yes. Or who was buried.
King George, something or other, was buried with his horse.
And yeah.
Whatever. Then Waldo decides he wants to go out again that night to collect another corpse.
They'll pick someone who's not married, he says.
Yeah, he's talking to Felix. And again, Felix doesn't want to do it, but whatever. Then there's a knock at the door, and it's a letter from Mr. Black. He's going to evict them if payment is not received by morning. So Waldo decides to kill two birds with one stone, as it were.
He says they will kill two birds with one pillow.
Yes.
It's Mr. Black is the new victim.
So they arrive at Mr. Black's, and all the doors and windows are bolted on the inside.
Wait, they're racing to Mr. Black's house. The cat's on the carriage. I said, this cat is killing it. Just sitting on the carriage. And Waldo he's like, why didn't I think of this before? This should have been my first option.
Yes. So all the doors and windows are bolted on the inside, so Felix cannot pick them.
Yeah, Mr. Black is thorough.
But Waldo finds a second floor window, which is wide open, Karen.
Yep.
Luckily, it's just off a roof, a side roof. So he sends Felix up. Waldo helps Felix up onto the roof, and he climbs to the window.
Yeah, he gives him a boost.
Felix makes it through the window, and we hear Mr. Black reciting Shakespeare.
Yeah, it's from Macbeth. He's doing a soliloquy.
And then he begins acting.
Yeah, he's reading from the book, and then he closes the book and continues. So obviously he's memorized this whole thing because he starts acting it out. And I thought it went on way too long.
Yes, he grabs a sword and everything and starts stabbing things about the room, including, what's that thing called, Karen?
Just called it a room divider.
Room divider, where you used to dress behind or something.
Yes, so
behind which Felix is hiding.
So he cuts some candles in half. So the sword is sharp because he cuts some candles and then he starts stabbing this room divider, and Felix keeps backing up as the sword comes through and almost hits him. But then it falls down.
Yep, Mr. Black sees Felix and appears to have a heart attack. He goes to his room and pulls the rope to call his servant before he collapses on his bed. Servant comes in and sees him and says, "Oh my gosh." And he begins to leave the house, but Felix stops him. Servant tells him that his master lies in his bed dying and he is going to fetch the doctor. Doctor arrives and pronounces Mr. Black dead. But the servant asks the doctor to do some more tests to be sure he is dead because he suffers from catalepsy. Is that what it's called, Karen?
Yep.
Catalepsy.
A medical condition characterized by a trance or seizure with loss of sensation and consciousness, accompanied by a rigidity of the body.
So it's like you're dead.
But you'd still be breathing.
Yeah. Yeah, he does the mirror test and all this stuff. And I think he does something to his hand too, takes his pulse or pricks his finger or does something. I don't know what he does. But he assures him that he's dead, right?
Absolutely dead. So here's our trope, right?
Okay.
What movie did we watch last time?
Pit and the Pendulum.
And did the doctor swear that the woman was dead?
Yes.
So
True.
did you have a different trope that we need to get to?
It's close.
I'm going with a doctor that thinks someone's dead who isn't actually dead for 10 points, Greg.
And even Hell House has the body of what's his name still preserved there and all that stuff. No, I thought he had a thing for cats, Karen, because there were cats in all his movies.
Oh.
Remember the black cat in Hell House?
Well, there's cats in lots of movies that are better actors than some of the actors. But no, I just thought it was kind of funny that last week we had a doctor that was swearing that the person was dead and they weren't. And now we've got it again here.
Yeah, true. Hello, boys and girls. Thanks for listening to the Scary Spirits podcast. Karen and I really have a great time putting these episodes together. If you enjoy what you hear, please consider taking the time to leave a review wherever you listen. Reviews really help independent podcasts find listeners. The more listeners we have, the easier it is for people to find us. Now, back to the show. So, of course, Waldo knocks on the door and, they let him in. And so they take Mr. Black's body to the funeral parlor. They get him in there.
Put him on the table.
After much hilarity. Yeah.
I have to say, slapstick is never my thing. I never find that funny.
I don't either, typically.
It's just, a lot. I know a lot of people do, and all that Three Stooges, but it's just Laurel and Hardy, all that slapstick. Even when Saturday Night Live would do it, I'm like, it's not that funny. To me, I'm sure there are people that enjoy it, but they do put him on the table where you would embalm him, and Waldo says,
because that costs money.
He says they haven't embalmed anybody in 6 years. So you don't want to go to this funeral home. He says they're not going to start doing that now.
And as he's lying there, Mr. Black's nose begins to twitch.
I didn't put this together until later.
He has an allergy to cats.
Yes, the cat is there. And I didn't realize that that's what was making him wake up like that until another one or two of these instances. It took me a while to get that. But yes, he's allergic to cats, and Cleopatra is right there.
So Mr. Black wakes up in the cellar of the funeral parlor. He recognizes Felix, and Mr. Black and Waldo begin to fight. And again, Mr. Black collapses, apparently suffering another heart attack. So they put Mr. Black in the coffin.
In their one good coffin.
Then as they are leaving to go to bed, Mr. Black wakes up again and opens the coffin. Felix and Waldo hold the lid down.
They sit on it, and he's still pushing them off. These are two grown men sitting on the top of a coffin. You couldn't push them off. It's going up and down, up and down, up and down.
Mr. Black escapes again. Waldo hits him on the head with a mallet, puts him in the coffin, and chains it shut.
Waldo does say he hasn't had a more uncooperative customer in all of his life, which I thought was funny. But yes.
That was all right, too. Yeah.
Relative to the rest of the movie, I'm looking for what I can.
Yeah, I know.
So
the couple you have mentioned were the best ones, I thought, as well, so far.
They do knock him out with the sound of a mallet hitting his head, like a conk or a whatever. I don't know. So they put him in there with a gag on his mouth, and they tie him up, and they chain the coffin.
Right. So next day funeral, Waldo unchains the coffin, unties Mr. Black, and removes the gag from his mouth and
Steals his pocket watch.
and dresses him up, because he was in his bedclothes. So they put him in a suit at least.
Yeah.
At the funeral, Amaryllis sings, and she don't sing good here at all. The whole rest of the time, her singing is terrible. I don't know why, but when we first hear her sing, she's pretty good.
Right. I agree.
Until the very end. But the rest of the time, she's terrible the whole time.
But she's singing a song about how he's not dead, he's sleeping.
Sleeping, yeah.
And he's only sleeping, his eyes will open. And Felix is saying, I wish he would have chosen a different song.
Then vases begin to break and flowers wilt.
When she hits that final note.
Yes.
And the song goes on way too long. It's another, okay, one verse would have been fine. It was funny, ironic, whatever. Move along. But she sings like 3 verses or something.
Then Amos gives a eulogy. Who's Boris Karloff, right? Yeah.
Who he obviously doesn't know who's in the coffin.
Yeah.
Calls him old what's his name and
you know who.
You know who.
It's pretty good though.
He even looked over to make before he said she, and then he looked over and said he.
But at the end of the eulogy, Mr. Black's nose twitches again. Next, we see Felix and Waldo carrying the coffin to Mr. Black's crypt.
Yeah, and they're pissed.
Yeah, because apparently they have to buy a new coffin.
Yeah, because you can't just dump the body in a crypt. They've had the same coffin for 13 years.
Yeah, the cemetery keeper locks the gate to the crypt. And as he's walking away, we hear Mr. Black speaking. Got back to the funeral parlor, whatever the house. And Amos is playing the fiddle. And Felix and Amaryllis are dancing.
Yeah, everybody's extra happy. And
as Waldo tosses coins about.
Cleopatra's watching. There's a storm outside. And basically, Waldo is doing the equivalent of rolling around in his money.
Pennies, yes.
Yes, rolling around in his money. He's very happy. Felix does kind of profess his love under a table.
Yes.
But Amaryllis escapes his grasp and goes to see Waldo.
Yes, and tries to get him to come to bed.
Now that he has money, I guess. But he just still cringes at her touch, and he tells her she's repulsive. So once you hear you're repulsive, I guess she leaves and says, you can't kind of recover from that. He chooses liquor over her.
Yep. So Felix convinces Amaryllis to run off with him. He will let her study music and continue her opera singing career.
I think she's all in.
Cut back to the cemetery. We hear Mr. Black yelling from his crypt. Cemetery keeper comes and unlocks the crypt.
He's a little freaked out.
Yeah. And he pries up the lid of the coffin because I guess it's hammered shut or something. Mr. Black opens it and he leaves.
Quoting Macbeth again.
Yep.
And he walks out of the crypt. And of course, the cemetery caretaker screams and passes out. Would be pretty traumatizing, I would imagine.
Got back to the house, Amaryllis singing and packing a suitcase.
She's out. She's going. I guess she's just going to leave her dad there?
I guess. Felix is writing a note to leave for Waldo saying that he and Amaryllis have left.
He thinks she's singing beautifully like a nightingale.
Mr. Black arrives, grabs an axe as he enters the cellar of the funeral parlor.
And Waldo's asleep on the fainting couch with his bottle.
Fainting couch, is that a thing, Karen? Fainting couch?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Everyone should have one. To fall asleep on with your bottle.
Okay. But Waldo hears the cellar door banging against the wind.
Yeah, so Mr. Black has gone in through the cellar and left the door open. And because there's a storm outside, it's banging. The wind hasn't blown it shut. It's banging against something.
He goes out to investigate.
Yeah, Waldo thinks it's the front door, and it's not. And then he goes to the side door, and it's not.
Sees the cellar door open, goes down the cellar, looks around in there, sees this door to the upstairs is open, and he says, I know that door was closed. So he goes back upstairs.
We do see all the curiosities stuffed in the basement.
And when he gets upstairs, he's walking around and we see muddy footprints going up the stairs.
But he doesn't. He's still drunk. And he just goes back to the couch, doesn't he? Yes, he goes back and lays down in the parlor.
Mr. Black enters Amaryllis's room and she screams. Felix and Waldo run to see what is going on, and Mr. Black chases them around the house with the axe.
He does throw down the axe very near Amaryllis's head.
Yes, he does. So eventually Felix falls down the stairs.
They run and hide. It's kind of silly. There is one part where they run down
There's
the
a
hall.
shining moment.
They close
That's what I call it.
They close the door. Of course, Mr. Black uses the axe and he hacks open the door. They're hiding. Waldo just leaves, and Felix hears the footsteps and thinks that Mr. Black has left. He lights a candle and he sees that Mr. Black is there and he screams. And then even though the door is all busted out, just the frame is there. Well, the outside frame of the door, he opens the door to leave, which I'm sure is supposed to be funny.
And then he falls down the stairs.
Yes.
Mr. Black goes down the stairs, lifts the axe, but Waldo shoots him a couple times.
Twice, yes. Why doesn't he go catatonic now?
I don't know.
But he's quoting Macbeth as he dies.
He gives a lengthy soliloquy, I wrote.
Yes.
He falls and he gets back up and says some more shit. And he falls and gets back up and says some more shit. And, right?
Yes. So he's doing the Macbeth speech. And he finally does seem to be dead.
So Amaryllis comes down, sees Felix thinking he's dead, and threatens to report Waldo to the authorities because there's Felix's body and there's Mr. Black's body.
And he tells her to go to bed, but she keeps talking. So
he strangles her.
Which I almost looked up. How long does it take to strangle someone? But I didn't want that on my history because she's like dead in 2 seconds.
Well, it's
basically
2 seconds, but yeah.
Not very long, though.
So Felix wakes up and accuses Waldo of killing Amaryllis.
And he just nods his head. Waldo does. Like, yep, totally did it. And he laughs.
Waldo grabs a sword.
Well, Felix grabs one first, doesn't he?
Yeah. He attacks Waldo with a sword. Then Waldo grabs a fire poker.
Well, first he goes for the gun, but it's out of bullets. Then he tries to grab a sword off the wall and it's broken.
Breaks. Yeah.
He has a poker and they kind of sword fight horribly. They just break a bunch of shit.
Yeah, I wrote, Waldo grabs a fire poker and they fight. Or at least their body doubles do.
Yes, it's bad.
Because it was obviously not them. Eventually, Waldo hits Felix on the head with the poker. Knocks him out. Next, Mr. Black's servant arrives to tell Waldo that Mr. Black had been seen walking the streets. He enters the house, looks around, sees all the bodies laying on the floor, and runs off yelling, "Police! Police!"
Who take forever to get there.
They never do get there.
I know. That's what I mean. But
At
Waldo
this point,
is
Waldo's
just
done. He's like, fuck it. Right.
Right. Exactly. He says, if you can't lick them, join them. But he just kind of passes out.
He just kind of passes out. Yeah.
I thought he was going to shoot himself or something, but he didn't.
So then Amaryllis awakes, followed by Felix.
Which they each say, I thought you were dead. I thought you were dead. It's a little bit Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
You know how they both think they're dead? Well, then they do die, but it still had a little bit of Shakespeare in there, I think.
And they leave. She doesn't even go up and get her bag. They just walk out. They go.
Yeah, and she leaves her father upstairs.
Yeah, but he comes down. He's next.
Yep.
He's the next one to come down. He finds Waldo passed out at the bottom of the stairs. Amos decides to give Waldo some of his medicine.
Some of Waldo's medicine that he keeps in his jacket.
Yes.
To help him out.
I'm going to give you a dose of your own medicine.
Nice.
So then Waldo wakes to find that he is drinking poison, drank the whole bottle.
Because Amos tries to take some.
Yeah,
but it's gone.
So Amos goes back upstairs and Waldo kind of like, I don't know, stumbles around the room and dies dramatically, right?
Yes.
Then the cat crawls onto Cleopatra the cat, crawls onto the chest of Mr. Black, and his nose twitches and he sneezes.
He was shot twice.
I know. Then the screen goes black and we hear, "What place is this?" Which is what he said every time he woke up, right?
Yes.
And we have credits in the end.
So
Did you watch the credits the whole way through?
I did not. I watched.
You didn't watch the cat take its little path all around.
No.
That's just something to watch, I guess, is the credits. But the cat, goes all around the place and ends up like inside the coffin at a burial, and the lid's about to close and he jumps out, and that's the end.
No.
So
I did watch far enough to find out his name was Rhubarb.
Rhubarb, yes.
Yeah. So basically, Waldo tried to kill everyone, and in the end, he's the only one that dies.
Basically.
Well, besides the one old man they killed.
All right, Karen, what did you really love in this film? What were your favorite parts?
I thought Rhubarb was excellent. Gotta love a good orange tabby. I thought he did a really good job. It's hard to train a cat.
They did camera tricks to get him to do what he needed to do.
Of course. It's
All
hard
right.
to train a cat.
He
Much
didn't do
harder
all that
than
like they did shit in reverse and everything to make him like lean back and cover up his head or whatever. And
Well, the funny part was I couldn't figure out why they needed the cat at all until I put it together that Mr. Black was allergic to the cat. And that's how he kept waking back up. At first, I was like, why do they even for half the movie, I couldn't figure out why are they messing around with this cat? Like, why does it have such a large role in this movie? It's in almost every scene, really. So it took me a while. I was a little slow on the uptake there. But yeah, they do need him. So I thought the cat was fun. I thought there were a couple funny lines in it. The ones that I mentioned. But sets were okay. They were okay. Not anything extraordinary, but not bad.
The inside sets were okay. The outside sets, like the town.
Yes. Well, that's true.
They were driving to the town, it was pretty. You could tell it was a sound stage with a
yes,
painting in the background or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. The inside sets were good. What about you? What did you really like? Because that's all I got.
Not a lot. There were just those couple lines I thought were kind of funny, witty.
Witty's a good word for it.
I mean, the acting, okay, I guess was fine, right? I kind of felt bad for them. As I was watching it, I'm like,
I don't know why they agreed to it.
But I thought, well, maybe they're having fun, right?
True. They usually have. It certainly would be out of character in a way to have a little more fun with it.
I mean, Vincent Price was good. I mean, he was excellent. I thought of all of them, he was the best.
I think they each played their role very well. I think Mr. Black.
And they all tried to play it straight, as best they could.
Yeah.
I don't really know Basil Rathbone from anything.
I don't either, but I know the name and I know he's famous. But I thought he overdid it a little bit. But maybe that's
the one we did about the people at the house during the storm. Was he in that?
Oh, what was that? The old house on the
old dark house.
He's
a Shakespearean actor.
Oh, that's probably why he could quote Macbeth so well.
I do recognize him from Adventures of Robin Hood. He's the villain in Romeo and Juliet. I do recognize. Yeah, it's like in those swashbuckler movies. I do recognize him now in that. And Sherlock Holmes. I recognize him from Sherlock Holmes.
Okay. That's where I know the name from. My mom used to watch those. Okay.
Yeah, so I thought the acting was fine. They tried to play it straight. I hope they had fun. That's all I got. All right, what didn't you like, Karen?
Well, like I mentioned, slapstick is just not my type of humor. So I didn't really enjoy that part of it. I thought a couple of the scenes just dragged, went on too long. As part of character development. I don't know why she sang so well at first and then sang horribly the rest of the time. But her singing bits I didn't find funny either. And the whole premise is really kind of morbid. I mean, to make a comedy around smothering people is a little odd. There's a dichotomy there that I don't think I can get behind.
Yeah, it's a dark comedy, right?
What about you? Were there things you didn't like?
It was all right, I guess. I mean, you could tell they weren't fighting; their body doubles, But the makeup, as you mentioned on Boris, was bad.
Boris was terrible. When you put all those things
together, the first
movie
we've done with Peter Lorre.
Yeah, who I think he looks like a Renfield. You would think putting all those things together would make a great movie, or at least a good one. And it just didn't happen.
Rhubarb is even credited on the poster, Karen.
Yes.
I mean, it's Vincent Price, Peter Lorre, Boris Karloff, Joyce Jameson, and Rhubarb the cat.
He's got a good agent.
And also featuring Joe Brown and Basil Rathbone.
It just didn't click for me. It should have. It had all the things we like: Vincent Price, Boris Karloff, horror, murder, but it didn't click.
Yeah, he's a male marmalade tabby cat. He has his own page.
Was he in anything else?
Animal actor owned and trained by Frank Inn. He's gone under many names, including Jimmy and Jeremy and Rhubarb. But Orangey is what his main name is, apparently. That's what this page is. Orangey credited under various other names. Prolific television and film career.
Some kid named that cat Orangey.
Well, his first film was called Rhubarb. He was in The Incredible Shrinking Man, which is also a screenplay by Richard Matheson. In The Diary of Anne Frank. Breakfast at Tiffany's, which also starred the lady who played Mrs. Phipps in this. He won awards. Couple Patsy Awards, Karen. Apparently that's Picture Animal Top Star of the Year, the Patsy.
Excellent.
Won it twice.
I knew he was good.
He's buried in Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, Karen.
In a pet cemetery?
I don't think so. I think that's where all the famous people are buried, Karen.
Gotcha.
Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, Los Angeles, California. All right, Karen, what kind of cocktail rating you want to give this film?
For me, I think it's a 4.
I agree.
If this is your kind of humor, it would probably be a 3. You know what I mean? If it
didn't have Vincent Price, Peter Lorre, Boris Karloff, and Basil Rathbone, it'd be a 5.
Maybe, yeah. But if it's your kind of humor, you'll probably really enjoy it. It's just not for me. So I'm 0 for 2. I didn't like the drink and I didn't care for the movie that much. But it wasn't horrible to watch. I just rolled my eyes a lot.
Yeah, me too. As long as you know what it is going in.
Exactly. And you know that in the first 30 seconds. In the
first scene, yeah.
Yeah, so.
I kept thinking, would this be funnier in 1963?
I don't know. I wondered that too. I think slapstick was a little more popular back then.
Because they made a novel of this. Came out in 1964. Richard Matheson, I guess, has a co-writing credit. But the novelization of it. I
think if it wasn't a comedy, I think it might be a pretty good premise for a horror movie. If you took out the comedy, I think it would be better. And I think even if you left all the characters the same, it would be better. Vincent Price would be amazing as an Undertaker who goes out and kills people for business.
Yes, he would.
And I think the comedy is what brought the whole movie down. But it's creepy if you think about it. The whole, like I said, the whole premise is scary. And it could be done in a way where he wouldn't necessarily be caught. And it would be diabolical using the same coffin, dumping the bodies in the ground, not embalming anybody. That's all really creepy.
It's probably hard to get caught in 19th century.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It would have been a better movie if they hadn't made it into a comedy. Even the ending of this one, if it wasn't a comedy, like he could have been poisoned in the end, and it would have been really good, I think, where he ends up the only one dead in the whole fiasco, except for the first person that he killed. I don't know why they went for comedy. Maybe Matheson wanted to try his hand at comedy, or maybe they wrote it and tried to act it out seriously and it was horrible. I don't know.
So this was a follow-up to The Raven and meant to reunite Vincent Price, Peter Lorre, and Boris Karloff, I guess, who are all in The Raven together. I don't know why they decided to go for the comedy thing.
It's very dark, so I'm surprised that, well, I'm not surprised it didn't really work as a comedy.
Yeah, they shot it quick. I mean, they did it quick.
Not to imply that, I'm a film expert or anything. Listen to us. Well, if they had made it not a comedy, it would be excellent. But I really think it would have been better.
I don't disagree. So 4 cocktails. Do I need to ask you what you thought of our cocktail? My Undertaker cocktail?
I think I've made that clear. Did you like it?
Mine has evaporated, apparently.
Oh. Quick as any other drink, so it must be decent to you.
Yeah. Partly I wanted to drink it quick so it wouldn't keep me up all night, Karen.
I don't think how quick you drink it makes a difference, does it?
Yeah, but I wanted to get it in and out of my system quickly. Does that make sense?
Sure.
All right. Anything we learned today?
Well, we learned about orange tabby cats.
And why you throw dirt on a coffin.
And catalepsy.
Why is it called catalepsy?
Because it's a catatonic state. Sorry.
Catatonic. Got it.
Yeah.
Cata. What's that prefix mean, Dr. Karen? Cata.
I don't know.
You don't. I started to look it up, but I said, nope. I know Dr. Karen will know that shit. So I didn't even bother. From the ancient Greek, meaning seizing or grasping.
Really? Because catatonic usually means you're just laying there.
No, catalepsy is from ancient Greek, catalepsis.
Well, yeah.
And seizing and grasping. There's also a band called Catalepsy, Karen, in case you're wondering. American deathcore band.
Oh, yeah.
They have released 1 EP since 2004.
Hey, they got one. It's more than me. Let's see. We also talked about yakety sax.
And actually, going back to Shakespeare, Karen, the potion that is provided to Juliet
It doesn't kill her.
by Friar Lawrence, no, is a catalepsy-inducing potion.
Yes. Yeah. So she just looks dead, but she's not.
So there's lots of Shakespeare references in this film, I feel like.
I agree. Macbeth, Romeo, and Juliet.
Anything else we learned?
No, I thought that was pretty good for
Yeah, it is pretty good.
this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty good. All right, Karen, next episode, it's all you, and I have no idea what you're going to choose.
I've chosen John Carpenter's The Fog.
Any reason you chose that film?
It came out the week that our episode will come out.
I think it comes out the day our episode goes live, right?
Yes. Aren't you proud of me? I actually did a correlation there.
Yes, Karen.
Like you used to.
This is one of my favorite films as well.
I've never seen it.
You're in for a treat. Do you have a cocktail?
I do.
You know, this is The Fog from 1980, right? The original Fog.
Yes.
It has been remade.
I'm sure it has.
What is your cocktail, Karen?
It's called the Black Fog Cocktail.
And what are we going to need for that?
You're going to need 1 can of Guinness dark beer.
Excellent.
And 1 to 2 splashes of raspberry liqueur.
Simple.
To make it, you're going to slowly pour the dark beer into a tilted glass. Add a splash or 2 of raspberry liqueur, lightly swirl to mix, and serve.
That just has to be dark beer or Guinness?
Well, this says Guinness.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I'll get some Guinness. Can I use my Chambord for this, Karen?
Yes, you can.
Or should I use my razzmatazz?
Whatever you're feeling. And if you're feeling expensive, then go with your
It's just a
Chambord.
splash.
But if you're feeling cheap, then you go with your razzmatazz.
Okay. The Black Fog. All right, Karen. Anyone you need to thank this week?
Greg, I'd like to thank our listener. There are a lot of podcasts out there. Thanks for spending time with us. What about you? Who do you need to thank?
Well, I need to thank our new YouTube subscriber, Nipuna Bandera, and I'm not even going to try the last name, Karen. So, yes, you know who you are. Thank you for listening and subscribing to YouTube. And I also need to thank the band Verse 13, Karen, for providing all the music on the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Thanks so much for listening. Want to keep in touch? Check out our website, scaryspirits.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Scary Spirits Podcast. Find us on YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email us at info@scaryspirits.com. To help us grow the podcast, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You know, we really do appreciate your support. And as always, please drink responsibly.